everything, look.
Let's smile, Tom. Let's smile. No.
That's it, boy. Don't be caught coming. Where is he? You're right here. Come, Foley. That's it, boy. Look at you around, going. What are you thinking of? That's me looking through.
Come
Come on. Watch out!
Liam, don't no damage.
Liam, back one.
Wait, hold on.
Can you
Wait.
That's
That's it.
Hold the boat.
Hold it up before you do.
No spinning first.
Rina, you alright? Rina, you alright? Come on, Linda. Come on, where's the ball? Where's the ball? Alright. Sit. Sit. Last one. Last one, ready? Alright, that's it. Charlie, come. Down, Loud Rangers. Charlie, come. Down, Loud Rangers. Up, Midtown, Castle, Maine. Hey! Up, Midtown, Castle, Maine. And Loud Rangers are down.
Deirdre, where are you going? Hello there. Hello. I hear you stand. We have to go. Say something.
I'm bestie. Kom igjen, rikelig fart.
What would you like me to do with him?
Pull his ears.
Oh! What would you like us to do now? Nice.
Oh yeah, I was sitting down to wife, Jim. So I will.
Det var sånn, ja. Jeg vil si det er funnet andre matcher sine.
Den inn der langs seg etter det. Ja, det er det. Er du med det?
Jeg synes det er sykt. Etterpå til det her.
What's the story, man?
What are you doing? Nice stop now, nice stop, nice stop. That's it.
Two shillings, 311 halfpenny.
Hi, Bob.
Five and tuppence. Five tuppence. Five pounds and tuppence. 5 pounds and fourpence. Fourpence.
2 bob, 5 pounds, 2 bob.
5 bob, 3 bob. 5 pounds, 3 bob. 4.
There's one bag of spots left, lads. 6 pounds. 6 pounds. 6 pounds and 2 shillings. I can't beat the both of that.
Oh, dancing above the cat.
That's your first time.
Dancing above the cat. Pig! Pig?
You're the point for the row.
Nice groovy in, huh?
Listen, when you put it on the steps, I was saying,
Huh?
before this.
Oh! Suck it out, let me see you suck that groovy in. That's good.
And I do the same, my Irish valley, we got coffees for one hour.
Have your attention, please, for a few minutes. Pamela is going to give a chat on the history of Old Bristol. Here we go.
Thank you very much, Finbar, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Our plans really had to be changed this evening owing to the rain, because this speech, our talk, was supposed to be given up further up the town, and James Coffey was to follow me in with the history of the Laune Rangers. But anyway, we'll do our best, and we'll carry on regardless of the fact. Now in 1885, this is about the lower part of the town from Hulsey's Corner down to the bridge here. And it is only taking in, say, less than 100 years. In 1885, the bridge was built here in Killorglin. The Cork contractor had the contract of it, and it brought in the rest of Kerry. We were cut away from South Kerry and Mid Kerry were cut away from the rest of the country until the bridge was built. The River Laune was a formidable barrier to communication after that. And when the bridge was built in 1885, we had access to other parts and they had access to our parts. Now, the first motor car to cross the Laune Bridge came along in 1910. It was owned here. It was the first motor car in Kerry. People came out to see the newfangled invention that ran up the town and up around the new line. It was owned by a Mr. Girvan, who was a solicitor, and he lived where the Beach Lodge nursing home is now. That was formerly the presbytery. Now, the oldest building, of course, in Yorkville Street is Castle Conway, which is located behind the Allied Irish Banks and McCrun Stores. I'm not going to go into the history of Castle Conway because John O'Sullivan covered that last night with slides and things. But it was built in 1215, and it has defied the elements and the wars and everything for almost six and a half centuries. It will be forever associated with the name of Jenkins Conway. The last occupant of the castle was a parish priest here in Killorglin. His name was Father Laune, and he lived there up to 1830. Now the castle, of course, today, only for it being encased in ivy, it would be a pile of stones and things. Somebody suggests the ivy should be removed, but if that happened, the whole thing would crumble. No, ivy has served us well, and it is still there. Now the second oldest building in Killorglin would be straight across the road. We're just after leaving that, some of us. That's the Church of Ireland, which was in 1816, it came into use, and the divine worship has been held there every Sunday since 1816.
And again tonight.
No.
And again tonight.
And again tonight, yes. And also there are some graves around there, so you could see it in our town, in our street here, we have a castle, a church, and a little graveyard. Now the old graves are there, and they belong to Church of Ireland members who, like the rest of us someday, will wait the resurrection and the bugle from Gabriel. Now in the tower of the Church of Ireland, as you can see it, was used as a sniping position in the War of Independence and also the Civil War. Irishmen got up in the tower and they fired shots at Irishmen inside the graveyard wall across the Ridges, all in the cause of Ireland. Let it be said to their eternal that they never violated the inside of the church. They respected us. And now we're going to lose that church and the congregation after so many years very shortly, because a new church is to be built in the site of the old railway hotel, the old railway station in Wildflower Road. And we can look forward to all people of all denominations and all stands of life will give a help to that building, and we look forward to the opening day. We have here with us Archdeacon Shannon, who was a worthy representative of all the great church ministers of the Church of Ireland faith that went before him. The longest man I remember was George Edmund Power, who was here for almost 40 years. And he lived over in the glebe lands in Killarney Road. And he was brought into town every morning in a pony and trap, himself and his wife sitting in the pony and trap. They had a driver there, his name was Jimmy Sullivan. And we always knew the time, we lived up there with the Allied Irish Bank, when a Patterson power would come, it was time for us to be going to getting ready for our own church service. Now, our town is unique also in another respect, because where I live above in the very end of the church, end of the street, down to James Coffey's this place here, and there's 3 further houses, and from that house over 3 or 4 up to the mill, a total of 23 houses. Each of them contains a basement. Now that's unique in any town. Almost 3 and 4 buildings in that. Now underneath here there's a basement and all these houses up along, which is unique. And while buses and articulated lorries are passing up along, Kitty Coffey could be down there getting the dinner, oblivious to all passing sectors. Now we also had a unique position in Lower Street that lovers of the light fantastic were well catered for. Because we had, in one street, we had 5 dance halls. Not all together, but they were there. Now the first dance hall was across the road here, where Jackie Shea's, or Mrs. Jackie Shea's house is. It was known as the Sinn Féin Hall. It was in 1920, in the early part of the 1920s. Now that building was a timber structure, and it was a gift, or a very small money was paid to Lady Gordon of Cara Lake for that structure. It was brought in, and it was assembled here again at the hall and put together. It was a timber structure. It was a social centre of Killorglin in those days gone by. The brass band, the town brass band, practiced there, and the concert was held there, and the dance was held there. Now, in the beginning of November 1920, for some unexplainable reason, some fellow put a match to the hall, and it went up in flames, including the brass instruments of the old people of the old brass band. Now the only thing that survived the flames was a steel triangle. It was found in a smouldering rubble the following morning by a man called Paddy O'Reilly, who picked it up and brought it home. It was still hot after the fire, and a few years before his son died, he gave me a present of the old triangle, and it is now to be seen in my museum. Now, that's the first dance hall. Now,
Hold on a sec, can we ask a question?
the second dance hall. Put off my track there, sorry. The second dance hall, that's number 1. We had a dance hall down here, the very last house down here. It is only a derelict now. Duffy Shea built that dance hall. That's right. And Duffy had aims to build a bigger hall in future years, which he did, of course, just in ballroom. But one night they were dancing inside that hall, just down there by the edge of the river, 3 doors below us, and they were immersed in love and romance and all of that in the hall, when suddenly a spring tide came in, and they were all marooned inside the dance hall as they danced around. That was the second hall. The third hall was in the old mill above in Annandale Road. That was a famous hall for the blue shirts. There was the blue shirts, the man who owned that hall at that time was Neville. He was an egg and poultry merchant. He was from Macroom, and he had a love for William Cosgrave's party, and he lit the hall to the blue shirts. That caused a bit of consternation and a few arguments between the blue shirts and those fellas. They didn't agree with him. But the old mill is, I don't have to go in further, but the third hall was Jimmy Leary's store, which was open for Puck Fair, and he had 2 melodeon players there, and this was 1930s, early 1930s, and there was a big excursion of cyclists from descended from Glencar and that side up, and they enjoyed a great night. Now another hall was where the chemist shop is across the road here. That was Paddy Maroney's hall, and it closed. That was in the 1940s. So have I gone over the 5 dance halls in Lower Street. Now about politics, we had three very able politicians in this part of the town. Of course, Chubb Connor is well known to everyone. Chubb had, as well as a politician, he had greyhounds, and his dogs, Spanish Battleship, won the Irish Derby 3 times, 3 successions. And we all remember Chubb Connor coming along the street and going up, and with his big cups, which are in display here today, and especially and then other times when he was after heading the poll in several elections. So we salute Chubb's memory here tonight. Another man was born here in Killorglin. Another man who was born here in Killorglin was the great Tom Barry, the famous Tom Barry, the man of the guerrilla, Irish guerrilla leader. He was Crossbarry and Kilmichael, and I think he was born here. His father happened to be a member of the RIC. And the funny thing is, there was a meeting one night up in the square, and a certain man in the crowd, when the King of England was mentioned, the fellow shouted, "To hell with the King." And Tom Barry's father was standing behind him, the RIC man, and he put his hand in his shoulder and brought him into the barrack, and he got 14 days in jail for shouting "hell with the King." And Tom Barry went out and shot him afterwards. Another famous politician here was the famous Tom O'Donnell. Tom O'Donnell came here from the Dignal area in 1900, early part of the century, and he married, he got a job as a teacher, and he married a local lady, Miss Ryan, who lived in the pub up there where Clan Lucy had. And Tom O'Donnell was an opportunist. His grandson, or Dermot Kinlan, you probably know him out in Sneem. Tom O'Donnell was, if he was alive today, he'd be in the coalition side, and maybe in 2 years' time he would be Bertie Ahern. But he was an MP for Westminster for West Kerry, and he was he introduced secondary education in this place. He was a friend of Father Lawler's and a friend of Andrew Carnegie, the great charitable man. And Andrew Carnegie built a Carnegie in this hall, the first one in Kerry, and he also built 4 more in Kerry. Tom O'Donnell blotted his copy at a time when he became a recruiting sergeant for the first war effort. There was a meeting in the Carnegie Hall of the Gaelic League, and Tom O'Donnell was presiding there. And after finishing in a speech in Irish, he went on to English, and he urged the people to tell young men to join the British forces. It was an English war, an Irish war as well as an English war. And a young teacher down in the body of the hall got up and she said, "Mr. O'Donnell, excuse me, it's not an Irish war. You want Irishmen to go to become cannon fodder in the fields of France to please you." That was Miss Ona McCollum above the school road. She lived in the house where Declan Mangan, the teacher, lives now. That's it. And for her gallant attempt, when Miss McCollum went to Thomas McCurtain's funeral in Cork, she came home to find her house burned and razed to the ground because she interrupted Tom O'Donnell at a Gaelic League meeting. Now they're the politicians. Now, another thing. Now, Lord Town was unique in another respect because we had 3 hotels in Lord Town in my young days. Now, if we go as far as Culty's Corner, that was known where Joseph Crowley is his finish off. That was a commercial hotel. Now, commercial travellers came that day by train, and they stopped in that hotel, and the following day they went along to the traders of the town and they showed their samples and took orders and all of that, and that was Culty's Hotel. The next one was the Bianconi up there. That was the Laune Hotel, owned by Jeff Morris. Jeff Morris, of course, was Ireland's greatest singer. He was prompted to go ahead, and good as John McCormick was acknowledged by leading musical judges that he was as good as John McCormick, but he was a man that never wanted that. He wanted to stay out to the limelight and sing in the pub for fellas like ourselves and all of that. Now, Jeff Morris and Maureen O'Shea, who lived a couple of doors up here, were 2 great singers in the church choir, and people went to their mass especially, their services especially, to hear those 2 singing and sing. Now, the hotel today, of course, is the Bianconi, so called because in the middle of the last century, Charles Bianconi came along, invented the being Coney coaches, and he put Ireland on wheels. The first man that established transport and put Ireland on wheels. He had being Coney stop up there. The car stopped there, and the people went into the hotel, had refreshments, or had an overnight stop. And where the restaurant is now, there were stables there at that time. Fresh horses were put on to the carriage for the further run back to the hotel in Glenveigh, and then on to Carteen Baiters in Mountain Stage, and then on to the Railway Hotel in Carsey, and so on along the Ring of Kerry. So that's now the third hotel, of course, was Daisy Taylor's, next door to my own home up there, my own old home. Now Daisy Taylor's was a unique place because it had a multiplicity of purposes. Daisy Taylor's was the first branch of the Allied Irish Bank in Killorglin. A man by the name of Frederick Nutt. He was manager there. I remember Frederick Nutt well, and I remember for one special purpose, the number of cigarettes he smoked. He was reputed to have smoked 90 cigarettes a day. His hands were like mahogany, his fingers were like mahogany. But it didn't kill him, because he nearly almost tonight be 90 years. Frederick Nutt and his wife were here. I know they're dead long ago, but in the young days, one of their children died in this town, and he is interred in Dromowalla, and that's the association with Killorglin. Now, another feature of Taylor's Hotel was, it was a drapery shop, and the drapery shop was owned by a Jew man, a Mr. Banns, B-A-N-N-S. He came from Egypt or someplace, and he established a drapery shop in the Ivra Road, and he was doing well, and he said he'd open up another one in Lord Street, and he installed his daughter in Lord Street, the Daisy Taylor's, the second. But Mr. Banns was terrified of his life that the daughter would fall for a Kerryman and marry a Kerryman, and that wouldn't do because he wanted to get a Jew wife for it. Anyway, another third thing was it was the first labour exchange. That place was the first labour exchange. Now, first door office, as you like to call it, whatever you like to call it, Mary now she established business there after the 1930s until she moved down here. It was also the first hairdressing salon in Killorglin. That place, there was a gadget something like this now with wires and curlers and tongs and generators and everything going in. And if a woman had hair as straight as the sport of a bicycle, she came out a mass of curls. How long they lasted, nobody knows. Now, also it was the home of a dentist, Mackenzie Vass. We lived next door to it, and I used to hear the pitiful cries of those getting teeth extracted from Mackenzie Vass. There was no soda fountain at that time. And we'd open her mouth, and he'd insert this big pincers into her mouth, and you would stab her with a needle, and you would cry, Almighty God to help her when the tooth was being extracted. Mr. Bass is a long time there. Of course, J.B. Healy, that died recently, he for years had a solicitor's letter office there. It was also a guest house and a restaurant. I remember one night before Puck, I was asked to loosen out the top sash to a window. There wasn't enough of air coming into the room, so I went up anyway, and I was met by a very unusual noise, and that was snoring from a man or two. So when I went across the room, there were 7 asleep inside the room. It was a night of Puck, it was accommodation, unlimited accommodation, but inside in Daisy Taylor's. One man didn't know who the other was, so there was 4 beds there and 3 shakedowns. They were all happy to celebrate the Puck Fair and have a nice, have a roof over their head. Now what the old mill over in the Anndale Road, that was, in the old days it was the Temperance Society, Billers and Snookers play there. The old play companies practiced there. The Puck Fair equipment was kept there. It was an auctioneer's office. It was a garage. It was a poultry office. They bought eggs and butter there. And it was many things. P.J. Foley one time had an auctioneer office there. Yeah. Now there was five shoemakers in Lord Street at one time. Five shoemakers. At that time everyone wore leather soles and leather boots and leather uppers. and 5 shoemakers, 5 bakers, a number of tailors. One tailor was named went as a master tailor. He was Timmy Regan, and in the early days Timmy Regan had a job of making the uniforms for the Garda Síochána, the first uniforms. He had that contract for making. He had a lot of men working for him, and he also made tweed suits and +4s for the gentry of Cara Lake and the fellas from the McLacuddy and the Gills and all them things up in the country. Now there's a funny story told about, a very unusual story told about shoemakers. In the early 1920s, there was supposed to be 18 shoemakers in this town. 18 shoemakers in this town. And in Langford Street there was 3 shoemakers living, and their houses were attached to each other. One fell in the middle and one on each side. And competition was fairly keen. And the fella in the house near the town, he decided he'd do something about it because the trade wasn't known. So he put his name over the door. Tom Murphy, the best shoemaker in Kerry, he put underneath it. So the other two looked up and they said, we'll have to do something about it. And the fella in the far upside, he put his name over the door, Tim Ryan, the best shoemaker in Killorglin. But that left the third fella in the middle standing looking. So he decided he'd put his name over the door. And he was Paddy Shea, and he put down the best shoemaker in Killorglin. So, in Killorglin. So that, in Lovis, in Road, that shook him all now. I won't keep you very much long more now. Now there was harness makers in Killorglin, and there was dressmakers, and there was nailers, there was pavers, all trades that's gone. And the first garage in Killorglin, the first garage in town was across the road here, Tim and Jerry Foley, they established a garage. And the first petrol pumps to arrive in Killorglin, to be erected in Killorglin, were over across the way. It was Pratt's Petrol that time, and it was there for many years. It is of course an antique thing now. And they're hackney cars, and a total raspa in the old days like that, with Jerry Foley's charabanc, what they call a charabanc, taking 10 or 12 people, and was driven by Jacko's father now behind, old Jack Foley, and it was a wonderful day out with Foley's bus going back to Raspa. Now there was 2 banks in Lord Street. I was spoken about the bank before, but the first national bank was where the areas live now. And my friend Dermot Grady, I told him before about it. Dermot was a successor of the thing, and that's where they established their bank, and the first provincial bank. It was provincial at that time, added Irish now. In 1927 they built that fine bank above in the corner, and they gave the best wonderful employment. Most of all the lintels and all, even the bricks and everything, were made here down in that yard in 4 years.
And the best rates as well.
And what they called high density, they were used high density bricks. After all these years, 1927, that's a long time ago, not a patch out of the bricks since.
Jesus Christ almighty. I know, yeah, it's open to the door.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I think I'll almost finish there, but I want to pay a tribute to the man who wrote the song, the Laune, and I want to come on to a small bit of history of Killorglin pertaining to that song. Because the second song, and the song that was almost the national anthem of Killorglin for many years, was Goodbye Johnny Dear.
Sing it.
We did in a hole. Now that song was composed by a famous songwriter and circus clown of the last century. His name was Johnny Patterson. And when Patterson came here, he fell in love with a girl who was working in a pub named Killorglin, where Mulville had his first chemist shop. And he made a song about her. If you take the name of Patterson, I'll take Donoghue, Bridgie Donoghue. But apparently he went to America for a year or two, and when he came home, sad to say, Bridgie Donoghue was dead. Now Johnny Patterson is buried inside the new cemetery near St. Brendan's Church in Tralee, where the Greyhound track is. he came to Tralee one night with the circus. He was dressed in a clown's suit, and at the breast of the clown's suit he had a crown done in sequins, crown out here in sequins. And a lot of fellas in Tralee took exception to that. They said it was an imperialistic dress to have a clown. So they had a row anyway, and Patterson was hit in the head with a stake, an iron stake that was used for the circus tent. And he was found lying, bleeding from the head. And he was removed to the old fever hospital in Tralee. Dr. Fitzmaurice came to see him, and they bandaged him up and that. And Dr. Fitzmaurice, relieving him, said, "Well, Johnny, I'll see you in the morning." "Yes, doctor, but will I see you?" says he. That was supposed to be the last joke. Shortly after that, he died inside the old fever hospital, and he was brought. He was buried. He had no connection with Tralee. A friend of his loaned him the grave, a plot in his grave, a man by the name of Eager. Johnny Patterson is buried inside there in Tralee. Now, he died on the 31st of May, 1889. And 5 or 6, or whatever number of years ago, that was the centenary. 50 of us had a commemoration over his grave inside Tralee. And we had a bit of an orchestra there, there was violins and things, and we parted the song with "Goodbye Johnny Dear." If you take the name of Patterson, I'll take the no. But just one more thing now, as I recall the old people of Lord Bristol, generations who are gone and past. And for the last 3 years, I'd like to pay a small tribute to men who would be here with us tonight. There's Seamus Kane, who departed some time ago. His near neighbour, Sylvia Shea. Around the corner, Mr. Jimmy Foley. This is within 3 or 4 years now. Further down was Per Egan. Next door was Jackie Shea across the road here. Across the road again was Tom Crowley. Up a little bit further, my own brother. Around the corner, Daisy Taylor. Up further, the 3 brothers, the West family, Bobby, Michael and James. Down the lane within the last 3 or 4 weeks, Mary and Sheila McCrohan. They're all gone. And someday, we'll be all gone too, and there'll be somebody here, hopefully, to remember us. That's my speech, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.